Welcome everyone. This is Shailesh once again bringing you Real Connections series, which we started a couple of years ago, and we have been bringing amazing people to talk about real things, real experiences, real journeys of people who have achieved, accomplished, whatever you call it, but who have lived their life as a experience. And what more than to get knowledge and experience from sharing their wisdom for all our listeners. Today, we have the pleasure to bring a speaker, a guest speaker on our show, which is from all the way from Australia. And even though we are neighbors, there is some roots that Kay just share with New Zealand, which is always good to know. But most importantly, she's an entrepreneur, she's an author, and whatnot. She's a keynote speaker internationally. So we are going to hear lots of fun, and we are going to hear her journey, how she has gone through all these decades after decades and achieved so many things, which is absolutely amazing for one human journey. When you can't complete one, you get stuck. So this is all about what we are going to uncover from her. But I think one more thing I wanted to mention, that she is also an inspiration for most of the women out there who are listening, because she wants to give the power back to the woman, not as a gender, not just as a thing, because she is a spiritual soul. She doesn't identify or label, and that is what is fascinating for a human journey, which I'm going to talk about her life journey. So welcome, Kay, for this beautiful conversation that we are going to have today. And we're going to uncover a lot of things of your positive life journey that I have got the pleasure to bring you on this show. So without any further ado, I would like you to take this stage and tell us something about what you've done. I have just summarized into little bits of pieces of your introduction, but I think you can do more justice to your journey and your introduction. And then we'll get straight into your life journey, where it started, how it started, and where it is. Welcome.
Thank you, Shailesh, and it's so great to be here. I love our conversations. We actually had one, the other week, and then a couple of years ago. So now the timing is perfect and brought that connection back. So thank you very much for having me on. So I've worked in this industry for over 33 years, worked on myself even longer, and I always say I live with a foot in both worlds, because to me, we are soul and energy first. And that when we understand the workings of the unseen world and energy and soul, it actually empowers us in our physical life and creations. And, you know, back in the day in my 20s and 30s, I did work with men as well, but life has seemed to sort of encourage me in the direction of predominantly focusing on working with women in my coaching packages. In the healing work, both men and women come as well. Because I'm a shamanic leadership life coach. So I don't look the part. I didn't choose that part, you know.
Didn't choose that part. That's amazing. Yeah.
I was born this way. And I think that's what a lot of people misunderstand, that we can all live shamanic principles, but you know, the person that is chosen as the shaman, and I don't like the word healer, because I prefer to say in coaching and in the healing work, and to me, the two are also one and the same. We're really just guides that know the terrain, that understand the terrain. And the individual does the work. You know, the courageous individual does the work. And I was born this way, you know. I didn't realize it at the time. It unfolded, and part of that was to do with New Zealand as well. But it grabbed me. And it's also about, you know, integrating those principles and being very grounded, but very deep in our experience of life.
Yeah, that's very fascinating, because you touched on, you know, not just energy, but also spirituality, the mindset, the things. Take me back to the days when you actually recognize that this is what you're being as a human, that you came here on this planet. How did you recognize that this is what you want to do, or you just went along, or you just had your like inner voice telling you this is what, because
threw me into it. Threw me into it. I've got to sort of start when I was about 5, because that stayed with me all my life. That I can very clearly remember as a 5-year-old, my mother would tuck me into bed. We were Church of England, you know, we'd bless the whole family. We'd do the Lord's Prayer and she'd say goodnight and close the door.
Yeah.
And I very clearly, Shailesh, remember laying there going, God, I know I chose to be here. Please take me home. I know I have to be back in the morning. Now, I couldn't conceptualize that. I just knew it. I just knew it. And then, of course, you know, life gets complicated as we get older and more goes externally. But the one thing that I carried with me all my life that never dimmed down was that inner voice of knowing. And a lot of people will call it intuition. But you know, words have power. Everything has energy to it. And for me, I've never known it to be an intuition. It's been a very loud voice of knowing. And I've come to understand that that voice has 3 powerful components to it. And that is the knowing aspect is God, divine, whatever word you like to use that you're comfortable with. The power aspect is the soul that's talking to us all the time and guiding us as well. And the third element to that is the potential, which is the voice of our, you know, when we're given aspirations, like start this program, write that book, or go here and, you know, do this or leave the job, whatever it might be, is our future successful self calling us, going, come on, you're already successful. Let me show you the way. So when you put that together as one voice, that's an absolute knowing. Everyone has it. It's just that all the false stories, all the illusionary stuff, all the subconscious false stories and beliefs have overshadowed it. And it's about just redialing back into that. But then when I was about 18, I was involved in a car accident that should have killed me. And that sort of started me on a journey that I suppose brought me home, because I was in pain and no physios, nobody seemed to be able to help. And I knew I'd been really looked after in that accident, because even the police, you know, the car was right up in front of me and there was a massive tree. And even the police said, I don't know how you're not wrapped around that tree.
Wow.
And I just knew I was looked after and it was not my time to go. But my mother said to me, you know, you're so stressed these days, and pain will do that to you. Pain to live with all the time is mentally, emotionally, physically debilitating. So she said, why don't you go and learn to meditate? And I found a free course called Raj Meditation, where you learn to meditate with your eyes open. And I did that. Meditation was, I just took to it instantly. And I had an experience one day at home while I was meditating with my eyes wide open, looking at a point on the carpet, and there was this massive pinpoint of light, pinhead size. And I'm blinking, thinking, what's wrong with my eyes? You know, and at that stage, I was not comfortable with the word God. You know, religious experience tainted it, but it shot across the room. Hit me in my chest. I got sort of pushed back into the lounge. I felt this expansiveness in my heart center. I felt my connection to everything, everyone, all that there is. And, you know, sometimes words are so limiting, this overwhelming sense of love. And I knew in that moment I had met my God. You know, not some religious external God. And from that moment on, I was comfortable. And it sort of led me on a journey around Australia with my first husband and my eldest daughter, 11 months old, walked on the streets of Cairns and just walked up these stairs. And he's like, well, what are you doing? And I'm like, I have no idea. Right. But I had learnt to start framing life more positively because of meditation. But walking up the stairs, and what, my daughter was 1 and she's now 34 and a half. So long time ago. And this woman came out. It was a beautiful, quaint little sort of spiritual bookstore. And this woman came out with a client and just looked at me and said, you're here to see me? And I'm like, yeah, I am. I don't know what you do though. And she did the most profound reading. I don't believe she needed tools, but she used I Ching coins, and she described rooms I'd been into. She described experiences I'd gone through. She went right into my future, which didn't make sense to me at the time. But her final powerful words were, you have this incredible ear. You need to listen even more. Bought some books, went down the stairs, told that line to my husband as we're walking the street. And I said, this last phase that she's, the last words she said to me were this. And all of a sudden, that internal voice I'd had guiding me, teaching me, directing me all my life. And it was educating me, because it would teach me why people couldn't respond emotionally or what was going on with them. And that voice just said, haven't you worked it out yet? And I just had knowing, and it just unfolded from there. It's not something that I sought. It sort of grabbed me, and it was like a homecoming, though. Like, everything about it seemed so familiar. All the unseen world felt incredibly familiar. Yeah.
So did you think that was the moment where you had a sense of awakening, kind of, or something that is telling you with your inner voice that this is your journey going to be, or this is what you have to be, or you saw a few things coming? Is that something that we could summarize on that?
In a way, I got it's like there are phases to awakening sometimes. The car accident. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes there's a massive shock or an event impacts us. Very rarely is it, I've just awakened. That can happen. But I look at my awakening as sort of phases that are linked. And then I ended up just wanting to continue to learn to meditate, joined a meditation group. The guy didn't really know what he was doing and what he was playing with. And long story short, got the group into a bit of dark trouble, and then just went, you take over, Kaye.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, all this knowing I knew exactly what to do, all the rest of it. I just went, okay, I'm done with this. And that voice was constantly teaching me. And when people was teaching something, if according to this knowing wasn't right, it's like it would just tell me what was really going on.
Sure.
And I would feel it and just know it. And next thing you know, I've got people coming to see me, and it progresses from there. So
did you had a different change of mind in that moment, or did you knew your surroundings, your environment was acting differently and you were acting differently? Did you feel something of that sort at that moment or that point, or from that point onwards, basically?
Yeah, for me, it was just like a deep familiarity.
Right.
Like, this is okay. This makes sense now, because as a young child, I was working with energy all the time. And as a teenager, I was feeling, I didn't realize at the time, other people's thoughts and feelings and ways that I would behave, like singing to animals. The shamanic side of me can sing energy through and from people, and very connected to the natural world. So, and a lot of people, when they do this work and they shift the mindset and they come to understand the inner world and the fact that the universe exists within us, therefore we exist in the universe, and that we are soul and energy first, everybody, as they peel away that sort of illusion that is intruded, feels like it's a homecoming. Like, this is who I really am. This is comfortable. This is home.
Yeah. And did you see at that time, like, what people were doing, or the people were living in this system that we all live, and most of the people go against the system or outside the system and create their own way of living? Did you find at that time that you were the one who are not actually into the system, but you were creating your own kind of a system? Did you
Yes, and I think I had, for a long time, I was consciously creating, or what people term manifesting, but we're born manifesting, but I was sitting there as a 14-year-old and creating what my life would be like in my 20s. I didn't know what I was doing then. I just knew. And then it would infuse me with feeling. But I began to see people living in this world that when our vision is constantly external, it's like a trap. It's like a mouse maze.
Sure.
You know, and the more you get stuck in it, the unhappier people become. Stress becomes a problem. Overwhelm becomes a problem. Fear starts to rule. All these false stories and beliefs that sort of lock us in and lock us up and energetically contract us. And the more that I was applying what I knew with energy, with mindset, you know, the emotional body, prayer, statements, the more I felt the world opened up. But we have to turn our vision inwards to be able to understand that world, which is why people always talk about the power of meditation and intention.
But how hard is that to change towards inward? How hard it is for people who are listening? I mean, we all have likings, we all have understanding of, I want to do this, I want to do that. But then your inner voice is also something tells you to do this and do that. How do you make that transition into that,
It's
way?
like, that's such a powerful question. That's such a powerful question. By choice first.
Right.
You know, like I remember sort of doing a healing journey and then takes me into my past, and then everything just was becoming darker and more emotional. And I'm like, I can't function. I've got 3 babies. And I just remember going, there must be an easier way than this.
Yeah.
But it's the determination to choose something different and recognizing that the way we are and the heaviness that we carry sometimes is because we've been repeatedly feeding that every day, every day, every day. So to change that means, well, you know what, I'm going to have to buckle down and I'm just going to have to start drip feeding every day, every day, every day. And the thing is, it's just, then it becomes a way of living. And what will happen is people will start to change and experience the change. And then it's like, no, I want to put my old favorite coat on again. But you go to put it on and you're like, it doesn't fit anymore. So we'll revert back to go, life was better off when I was thinking like this. Life was better off when I was applying this. Life was better off. And it's not just mindset. It's the combination of it all, like taking threads and weaving a beautiful rug.
Yeah.
But it's consistency and every day, and then looking back and seeing the changes. Yeah, it's a little bit like I was in Melbourne a couple of weeks ago and got COVID for the first time going to visit my mother. So there's a lot that we couldn't do, and being unwell and being in a motel, and I wasn't meditating the way I normally do. And by the time I got back home and got back into my meditation, it's that experience of, I just need this, you know, so we stopped something to go, I can feel the difference from then when I do it. So it gets stronger. The ability gets stronger as it gets more and more integrated.
But isn't it something that when you go against, or when you try to listen to someone, isn't that always every human has got this one common factor is fear? And because when you look back your own journey and what you have achieved and what you have been doing, different things at different fields and different areas. So that's always fascinated me with your profile, is like, okay, is she a fearless, or what should I call her? Because when people want to do something, anything, even though they like it, even though they are knowledgeable, even though they love it, what they want to do, but they have got a fear which stops them from even attempting it. And what you have done is totally opposite you have done. So do you think that your sense of fear plays an important role, should not play an important role when you want to do something, because you got that fear of what others will say, what the community, society will accept me or not when I do this or when I do that. So how do you make that transition in your life?
Oh, that's a powerful question.
Mm.
Yeah, and I'm a human being. I
know, that's why,
experience
but
fears
we
and all
all are
that as
human
well.
beings.
But here's
Yeah.
the thing: the more that you also dial up that inner voice of knowing, and the more you build that relationship by trusting it. So I've always been, even as a kid, I'm not just going to believe that. I'm going to try it out and see how it works for me and figure out my own belief or knowing around that, right? And then every time you take a leap, but here's the thing: when we're growing, when we have an aspiration to change,
Yeah.
we know what it's like to be who and how we are right now. We don't know what it's like and who we are on the other side of that change, right? So it's like having a double elastic band around us. One's holding you to the known, the other one's holding you to where you aspire to be. So we take actions and all the rest of it. And then by our very nature, the subconscious is going to go, hold on a moment. We need to pull you back to safety, which is what's familiar, but not necessarily what's true.
True. Yeah.
So when those thoughts come out and when fear comes, here's the thing. That's a good thing in my book, right? Yeah. Because it's telling me, like, when you understand the landscape, it's like, okay, so when that starts to come up, I'm like, oh my God, I'm at that point where I've got to snap that elastic band, where I've got to draw on all those practices and understanding. But what the mistake that a lot of people make is they try to suppress the fear because they're living in a world of good and bad, right and wrong, fail, succeed, right?
Succeed. Yeah. They all have two sides. They compare.
Yeah. And so everything, according to me, has a right to be seen, heard, and responded to, not necessarily ruled by, right? So when I'm going through a growth phase like that and fear comes up, because the more you suppress it, the more it becomes, it fights to be heard, right? Yeah. But there are processes, like there's a very quick process. It's on my website where you can defuse your fears in about 5 minutes by listening to them, by calling them out, do you know what I mean? And by the fact I call it my friend. It's my signpost telling me, Kaye, you're heading in the right direction, but you're going to have to go into the unknown and grow and let go of ways you've believed about yourself, you know, ways you move through the world, ways you respond, all that sort of stuff. So it's sort of a double-edged sword of thrill or excitement and so like getting comfortable, feeling uncomfortable, but knowing it has a purpose.
Correct. But then that's what you said is very powerful, because making attempt was the most important part, which people don't do it. Even they want to call a simple thing, they feel guilty or shame or thinking all these labels that they restrict them to even make that one phone call or one communication. And that's where the whole power of that skills that they have is been suppressed. So from that angle, I mean, I know you are also, as listeners are listening to you, I can see that why you are also a life coach, basically. So what is life to start with, or how do you make those, and what is success and growth in life is very simple, but people get bogged down with these words, success, growth, and all of that. So when it comes to that kind of, making that first attempt, first transition, and then making that call, understanding your own and listening to your own inner voice is very powerful. But then making that transition and implementation after listening is the actual thing, which is the deeds, we call it, that you got to do your deeds with good intentions, and your intentions are already there, inner voice is telling you. So all that is tied in. How did that plays into your journey that you have seen from your childhood till now? What have you seen and what have you contemplated about all your life journey when it comes to your message to as a life coach, or as a, someone who can mentor, someone who can guide?
Well, first thing is, get the guide, get the mentor, get the person that knows.
Right.
And, you know, the key for, if you like, for me, from what I've got, is because I understand the deeper workings. And that when we can wire that to the understanding of then actions and goals, you know, for me, a lot of goals don't work unless they're soul goals, and I can explain why. But I'm really driven. I'm really driven because I've had moments in life where I've gone against my values, you know, or I've done things. And to tell you the truth, that is soul destroying. That is where depression comes in.
Right.
You know, when we're trying to live lives according to someone else, or those beliefs that have been, you know, that we've taken on board, that I call them false stories and beliefs. I'm always calling it out, you know, not just the subconscious. It's not a subconscious belief that sort of anchors it still. It's a subconscious false story and belief.
Yeah.
And they're all illusions that are intrusions. So what I do is I look at my life. How does my life feel and unfold when I'm going against? And how does my life feel and unfold when I'm going with?
Right. So this is very well said, because I also think that, you know, there are two ways of your journey. One is you live your journey with believing your own thoughts, believing others, believing surroundings, and then you live with that journey, which is quite easy in my world. That's what I felt, because you are just following, and you are just like, and then you also get regretted because you are following someone. But then the other side of the coin is, apart from believing, is seeking. And seeking is something, as you said rightly before, that unknown. You wanted to get into those unknown things, but then you made those attempts to know the unknown things. So, you know, these are two layers of our life journey. Or you can live your life as a seeker, or you can live your life as a believer. It's up to your choice. But how do you feel the difference, the transition in the spiritual way, in the spiritual concepts that you have learned and you have understood as your wisdom? What is your wisdom tells you with these two aspects of life journey of every human?
They're not separate.
Okay.
They're not separate. And we keep trying to separate it with spiritual, or we're this, you know, and we were having that wonderful conversation about the fact that I love the fact that you are so deeply spiritual, but immersed in the business world. Do you know what I mean? And politics, and that you actually cannot separate them. And when people understand that, then it's about learning how to work in harmony with it, and flipping that thing that I am soul and energy first. And that is what drives me then in the physical actions to take. And I call myself a shamanic leadership life coach, because for me, leadership starts from within. And, you know, there is not another human being out there that is more special. We are all one.
Absolutely.
And as we break those barriers of good, bad, light versus dark, you know, and it just all is, then we experience freedom. And that's living in the now moment. And, you know, you say something so powerful about seeking. The seeking starts with that desire to change, that desire to know more, that desire to become conscious of that which we're unconscious of. And when we're unconscious, we must forgive ourselves because it was unconscious.
Absolutely.
But then when you become conscious, you are responsible for choosing.
And that's where you make those transition decisions for your own purpose, for your own journey that resonates with you rather than anyone.
And here's the truth. We were all born worthy. If we're soul, part of the a spark of the divine, of all that there is, all that there ever has been, all that there ever will be. You can't, you've got this beautiful ocean behind you. You know, I could take out a small droplet of it. I can't deny it's still part of the ocean. It's still part of the whole ocean.
Absolutely.
So understanding that it's through the shadow elements, the parts where we hide in darkness with shame and all the else, they're the parts we need to reclaim and live from for ourselves first. Love, compassion, understanding, and forgiveness. And when we can learn to do that for ourselves, then we
Mm.
can extend that to all others. But, you know, everybody has that inner voice of knowing. Everybody is a soul. Everybody has the power to lead themselves through their life.
Yeah.
You know, we go to school to learn to read and write. We just need to learn and to understand traveling the terrain. I mean, years ago, I went to Borneo and I wanted to go to the top of the mountain and sit with some shamans. There's no way I could navigate my way there on my own. So I had a guide. I took the journey, but the person that knew the terrain and how to get me to where I wanted to go showed me the way.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what do you say about when you have this journey and when you wanted to take those conscious decisions, you know, first and foremost, how do you connect with those things that you want to do it? So like, for instance, like you talked about just now ocean, and I couldn't stop talking about it, like want to ask this question. How do you connect with nature? How do you connect with humans? How do you connect with all your surroundings? Because at the end of the day, what you are seeking is all the information and all the awareness from these areas. Because at the end of the day, we all are, as you said rightly, we all are soul, we all are spirits, and we all have the same background, we all have the same surroundings. There is nothing, and it's only the choices that we make out of those surroundings, what we want and what we not. So connection becomes a very important part, because some get connected to this, some get connected to that. What's your connections that you made this journey of making it into coach, making into spiritual? Because I feel, I see in you is like you are a you are not just like creator, but you are also an initiator first. So you initiate first your journey, then you create those, and then you implement those. So, you know, it's very important. Some people can only implement, some people can only create, some people can only initiate. But having all the three combination to initiate, that means your inner voice, you listen, and then you implement, you create, and then you implement, basically, with listening to that. So what's your take on the real connections? That this is a series that we call Real Connections, with real people, real talk, real sharing of experience and wisdom. When it comes to that, you know, first and foremost, you need to create those connections, and those connections should be real, as you said before as well, that it shouldn't be fake, or it shouldn't be just for the sake of doing it. It has to be real connection. And to do that, you got to go into the territory of unknown territory, basically. So
Become
give me some,
courageous.
give some that courageous that attempts that you made. I will be fascinating, and all the listeners, I guess, would also love to know. Because this is like, again, we are living in a system where we have to follow, and to go against the system or to go beyond that system is called the courageous that you want. That means you become from fearful to fearless. And I see in you as fearless, which is the right thing, which I wanted to make an attempt to say, that you are not fearful, but you're fearless. Fearful could be at some stage in your journey, but now you are fearless, basically. So
I like fear less.
Okay.
So fear comes up. I've made peace with fear.
Okay.
You know, so talking about connection, I have a connection with fear. It's there, and it's everything is serving me. Right. So the fear is serving me. It's telling me, you know, where I am. And then I have the tools where I can defuse the fear so I can keep going. But the connection, we're already connected. We just think that we're not. And the connections that I have now and experience are so deep because of the connection I've been developing within myself. And therefore, then I look out externally and I see, and I do that by also looking after my energy. So everyone talks about, you know, the fuel that you put into your body, and drink water, because we're predominantly water. We need to create a life where it's not just all external and buildings around us, and because we are part of nature. So, you know, when I go out into nature, wherever it is, I might look at the blue sky and I'll breathe it into myself to expand my energy. If I look at a beautiful tree, I will breathe it in. And the more that we do that, the more our energy expands, the more our energy expands, the more the frequency of who we are changes, like moving up a piano up the octave, our sound frequency changes. And then we start to feel that connection of that world around us. But if we're always stuck on social media, and I'm not saying that these things don't have a place, it's just all in, like, you know, eating food, all in moderation. But, you know, if you're constantly working in the city, you know, and then you're home and you're locked in the house, and we need to recognize we can do that, but we also then need to expand. So asking the question, is this contracting my energy or expanding my energy? And there's also another world that's sort of happening, because I work with quite a few entrepreneurs as well that have left their corporate jobs.
Yes.
Integrating their spirituality into what they're creating and taking it back into corporate, right? Because there are people, everyone's awakening. Look at you. You work also with, you know, interviewing politicians and people like that. You're accepted because you're confident in who you are. So you carry a great energy with you that people actually like to be around. So they feel like they trust you because you're being your spiritual energy. You're not forcing your spiritual energy. Does that make sense? It's like when people go, oh, I send you love and light. No, we just are love and light when we're in that state.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I agree, exactly know. Yeah. So that is what is important, that I took that leaf from your statement when you said that, you know, we had to initiate, or we had to make those attempts, we had to make those calls, we had to make those communication. And this is what who we are will define. Otherwise, we are just, and we are just there as an existence, but we are not there as awareness of that existence.
And do you know what one of the biggest traps is, Shailesh? Believing that I can't leave that job because I need the money, there'll be nothing else. Because
very true.
Not, you know, that's held hostage. You know, in my 40s, I felt compelled, guided to downscale my business and re-enter the workforce, and went into management and kept progressing. But everything that followed me for that 10 years was bullying.
Right.
Bullying from teams, bullying, you know, there's so much that's so dysfunctional out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I got caught too momentarily because I was earning such good money, and, you know, I was getting older and all the rest of it. But then I realized it was imprisoning me. Those beliefs imprisoned me, and that there is always something else.
Yes.
But we've just got to get clear on what it looks like, what it feels like, you know, what it is that we are deserving, that we are worthy, and that there are ways to create, because we're interacting with energy all the time.
Yes.
We've got to realize we are the architects.
Absolutely.
So when you want to build a home, you don't go, just give me a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom home, because you'll get whatever plan, and you'll go, that's not how I wanted it. I wanted 2-story. I wanted this. I wanted that. So we are the architects. We have to get clear on that, create our very well-defined plans.
And this is exactly what is all about. We will come to that business, because that's acumen that you also have developed in your journey. I wanted to dwell on that as well. But just I want to make a comment here that, yes, you are absolutely right. Being a business advisor as well myself, I tell people, take that bold decision when you think that you can do it, or when you even don't think you can't do it. But if your inner voice says you should do it, then you just do it. Don't be complacent about thinking that I will lose my income, I will lose my money, I will lose my relation, I will lose my this. Don't worry about that, because when you do all those things from your own inner voice, there is something there for you, bigger, better, different. Doesn't matter, big, better, different, but it is there for you.
So true. 2 things. I always say, I can't see round corners. God sees the bigger picture.
Absolutely. Very
and
well
then
said.
That inner voice of knowing is our GPS in life. Now, when I go into my car and I put in an address into Google, and Google goes, turn left. I don't go, are you sure? Are you sure I have to turn left? You just listen to that guidance, and you go left and you go right, and you do, and then you get to your destination. So our inner voice of knowing, remember, it's made up of those three incredible components that when you learn how to tune into it and remove what's the rubble in the way, is very loud. And that it's got your back, and all you need to do is, like when riding a motorbike, look to your destination, don't look down when you take that leap. Put as much faith into your inner knowing as you put into your Google Maps. Don't question it, just know that you will land. And I have worked with people, like I said, for over 33 years. It's a given when you stay strong to your spiritual principles.
Absolutely.
And then when I first came back into the coaching healing world, and more up-leveled because of my experiences out in, you know, in management and upper management, etc. I had someone say to me, Kaye, you either have to be spiritual or you're the leadership. And I sat and I thought about that, and so many are doing this. And I thought, but the leadership and how I've transformed my life and how I lived my life and how I've become empowered, self-loving, self-accepting, you know, all those things, comfortable in my own skin, you know, creating a life I love, still with challenges and adversity, but I understand what they mean.
Correct.
I thought, but it's everything I've applied spiritually, mentally, emotionally into me physically that has gotten me there. You cannot take spirituality. You cannot take the soul out of the human being.
Absolutely. Very well. Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. So it goes hand in hand. So we'll come back to that now. Almost we are coming to an end, but I don't want to end it so early because it was such a amazing journey that you had, and I think I'm learning a lot as well, and so as the listeners who are probably trying to take a leaf out of this conversation. But let's talk about the business that you became when you change your mindsets from a, you know, certain journey that you have, that we always have different phases, as you said, in our life. And we keep taking those harsh decisions for ourselves. And sometimes most of the time, people are afraid to take those harsh decisions. They end up where they are for years and years, same thing. And then they have regrets. What's your life journey is when it comes to those kind of aspects? Have you had any regrets? Did you have anything that you thought that this could have been, I did whatever, but yes, I am keep moving because I'm keep developing my thoughts and keep developing my decisions that I had taken. So what do you say to all the listeners that, you know, it's nothing wrong in it when you take decisions? We don't know whether it's right or wrong or good or bad or whether it works for you or not. But that's not the point. Taking decisions is the main point. But when you see that transition as of now, how do you relate yourself in that connection that you had developed with those decisions?
You know, there are moments in life, in my humanness, like even, you know, I'd had visions for myself in my 50s, which I'm in now, 58, you know, and I thought, had I failed downsizing my business, and I'm being so strongly guided to go out into the workforce. And then, you know, those moments of, but what we do is we listen to that side, and I go, but it's my inner voice of knowing that's here. I'm here for a reason. I'm here for a reason. So there's that deep-seated level of trust. And I know what I know, but I know nothing at all. So I'm following my knowing and developing that faith. But then the more you do that and realizing you always land in a great place eventually. You know, when I got done over at work, and this guy he always, upper management, was really bullyish and trying to sort of get me out or to lose my cool. And I saw exactly what he was doing. And I'm like, I'm not doing this game. And he eventually restructured to get rid of me, you know, and I thought, oh, I'll get another job really easily. I always do. I didn't for 11 months, but not once. My husband said to me, you never go into fear. And it's like, because I've learned over the years, everything I could ever need is always provided.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't see round corners. Only goodness comes from God, even if I can't see it at the time. So there's that level where I've got control through my choices for how I think, how I align the practices that I draw on. And then there's the other part where I'm untethered in surrender.
This is the beautiful thing I liked about your profile as well, is one of the things that you achieved is as an entrepreneur, as a coach, that, you let yourself into that driver's seat where you are always, even though you are somewhere, but you want to be back into your driver's seat.
Yeah.
And this is something beautiful that all listeners must be listening. And I just read there your profile that it's amazingly, you summarize that. But listeners, here it is, a woman who is not just a mentor, facilitator, or a keynote international speaker, but who is here to trigger your motivation, who is here to give your inner voice, who is here to actually let you understand and what is your inner voice and how you can sit in your driver's seat rather than letting someone sit in your driver's seat and drive the car. So you can drive your own vehicle, you can drive your own mind. And this mindset is, people may think it comes with experience, people may think it comes with maturity or age, but no, I think, Kay, what you demonstrated all along is you can start at any age, that thing. Does that make sense?
Yes, one of my previous clients, she's passed now, but she was 64 when she started with me in my first program, 65 in my second program. And she said to me, I just wish that I'd found you earlier.
Yeah.
And I said, but it's perfect timing right now, better now than later. And she transformed. She had a moment where she looked in the mirror in the first program and said, Kay, for the first time in my life, imagine this at 64, for the first time in my life, I looked in the mirror and I saw love looking back at me. She changed her relationship with her son, with her husband, with people around her because of listening to her inner voice that she said in the end was so loud, it was undeniable.
Right.
And you're never too late, and it's always at the perfect divine timing. Like we connected some years ago.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then all of a sudden it came full circle, and here we are now.
I'm loving it, Kay, because you can't imagine that why life brings you. But this is what the real connections keeps you going and makes you that connection, that extra divine connection that we always share. But to all the listeners also today, I think they must have got that connection with you as well in terms of, how they can drive their own inner voice, but how they can do at any age and any age they can start. It doesn't mean that you got to be young or age or this or that. It is just your inner instinct will make you do things. So just on that, wanted to give a final kind of your summarization. I wanted to let all the listeners know that you can change yourself. So when you change yourself, you automatically change others. If I have to put it in simple words, this is what I understood basically when I had first conversation as well with you a couple of years ago. And then we continued that similar kind of, there was nothing change in our mindsets. Now, this mindset is very, very critical for all the listeners who are listening, because mindset is something that, you got to drive your own rather than adopt someone else's mindset. And this is something I wanted to dwell and make your final comment or message to all the listeners who are listening to this beautiful conversation that we are having today about connecting with ourselves, connecting every around us, connecting with the nature that is behind me as well. So give that resonation to all the listeners. How do you put this with the mindsets particularly?
Well, with it all, Shailesh, it's what I've said since I was in my 20s to people, the power of change is in your hands. And, no one knows your soul purpose and your soul path for being here greater than you do. So we get very caught up in all the noise and, everything. There's so much being taught now. But, imagine that coming home and that power of change where you become your own motivator. You become your own guide through life. And is it simple? Yes. Is it easy? No, not always. But here's the thing. We learn to become like the river that flows over and around the obstacles. So that means obstacles will come, but you will move and flow over them faster. So I can process something now in 3 minutes, whereas before it would be 3 years or 3 months or 3 weeks or 3 days. We just become more and more adept, and the truth does not change. Our understanding and integration of it just deepens and expands. But once you've got that truth, you've got your roadmap through life.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I think with that note, Kay, I wanted to tell all the listeners that here we will give contact details of Kay who want to contact directly and to us through us, because we are going to bring Kay. We are not going to leave Kay with this episode. Was just first of her, one of those episodes but we will come back with various topics that she has gained all these years experience. And then this episode is her basic fundamental that I understood, that I take away from this conversation is the power is in your hands and you can change it with your own. You don't need others depending on others. That's my final message to all the listeners. With that, I thank absolutely with bottom of my heart to Kay, who came here today to talk about her life journey. Again, for all the listeners, this is not a journey which you may think that I have achieved this or I have achieved that, but this is a journey that you have lived with so many fields and so many dimensions. And what more than if you can find in one human these all dimensions, it's always amazing to pick all the layers of this. So with that, thank you very much, Kay. We will come back with some beautiful topics and that you would like, but you also can tell us what topic you would like to learn from Kay and what really you want to get improved yourself, because you may be at a different stages of your journey, but Kay has already lived those journeys and she's here to contribute experience and wisdom with absolutely helpful mindset. That much I can say. With that, thanks, Kay. Any final word you want to say to listeners, Kay? And then we can end it.
Just make a choice.
Beautiful. With that note, make a choice to also listen to our next episode with Kay. Thank you so much once again. We will see you once again